What's up, YouTube? Melderon here on another reaction video. Today we're going to be watching a Willy video. Willy's always good. And it's going to be, can we talk about Classic Plus again? And it's going to be, I'm hoping, I haven't watched it yet, it's going to be some interesting ideas about what Classic Plus probably should be, because it's all the buzz now. In the Classic Plus community, everyone's talking about Classic Plus. So we're going to get into that in a few seconds. I just want to do my shout out for Context Gaming. Context Gaming is a Discord gaming community created by friends of the channel. It's a discrimination-free community, and it's free of any politics or religion discussion, and there's multiple games and genres that people play inside of it. So if you're looking for a community to actually, kind of get that old feeling again of playing with friends, that have similar interests, Context Gaming would be a good place to check out. If you miss the days of game lobbies and fireside chats about the newest titles, or wonder what that was even like, Context could be the place for you. It's a haven for anyone looking to escape the politics and drama out there. For gamers of all stripes, talk about their interests with others who share them. Find community and make new friends. Min or max, Context is a place for you. And you can find them at discord.gg/context. Okay, with that, let's get on with the video.
So Season of Discovery is now entering its endgame, where people are farming Prebis, getting into the different heat levels of Molten Core, and there's plenty to look forwards to in the future in the way of raiding and PvP. And as much as the recent seasonal server is ongoing, conversations about Classic Plus have been picking up a little bit once again.
Let's see, anything crazy here? Alright, talking about bards up there with 3 specs. What else we got here? Dev interviews. Okay, nothing crazy yet. Let's see. Have I been looking through all Classic Plus actually entail watching SOD? Let me be the first to say Blizzard for once again ignoring 99% of your player base. Great job. I believe Classic Plus should stay 60 cap. Okay, not bad.
Conversations about Classic.
Okay, all I really want to see in Classic Plus is a new story with new quests and quest lines, dungeons, raids, revamp of old stuff. Maybe he meant he doesn't want a revamp of old stuff, because you can't see the end of this. The classes, zones, and everything else can stay the same. Yeah. So I agree with this guy the most. This person the most. I think that new content is the biggest thing you can do for Classic Plus. Which is what Turtle Wow mostly did. There are some very minor class changes that Turtle Wow did. But in reality, the really cool stuff about Turtle Wow is the new stuff you can do, right? New item drops. Like I just did... I did Black Fathom Deeps and Shadowfang Keep yesterday, and the bosses have added stuff to their loot table, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And that was such a big thing for me to see, because you're always like, okay, this is going to drop, this is going to drop. And I thought that was great. So that's new stuff in an old situation, but there's also new raids and new dungeons too, so I can't wait to experience them. I haven't experienced them yet. I think the first one I will is the Cenarian Grove or something like that. But this is the kind of stuff that I think we should be in there, and I agree with this guy's comment the most.
Classic Plus have been picking up a little bit once again. Just as of late, we've had a few interviews which have dropped, which have really said a bit more from Blizzard's end about what they're doing in Season of Discovery, and more importantly, why. I just want to play you a real quick clip from one of them here.
I think the community just needs to reflect on what we're doing as a team and try to think about why we're doing it. Like, why do we have an experimental seasonal server like Season of Discovery? Without saying anything, I think people can maybe infer a lot of stuff from...
I'll post all the recent interviews below as well if you wanted to check any of them out. Definitely worth a listen to whilst you're grinding away. Also, we've supposedly...
I don't want to be too negative here, but again, it was just a brain dead thing to say. You could have just brought out Classic Plus a year ago, and you could have been working on that instead of working on SOD.
We had surveys go out recently too, which I covered not so long ago, and whilst the authenticity of them was a bit dubious, it's just interesting that both of these things have happened relatively close together. And Season of Discovery itself is going to go on for quite a while longer by the appearance of it. A while ago, Blizzard said BWL would be a few weeks after Molten Core. That doesn't appear to be the case anymore. I reckon they're going to give Molten...
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the first tier will consist of Molten Core and Onyxia, and a few weeks after we'll see Blackwing Lair. So this was apparently scrapped, or this is not how it's going to work now. It's going to take a lot longer. I don't know why. I'm assuming because I guess because they want people to go through the content. And so I don't know why you would why would you slow this release schedule down unless you're going to make significant changes to Blackwing Lair, right?
And call a decent few months, if anything, and give it some time to breathe, in their own words. But ultimately, as we always do, the conversation keeps coming back around to, what if we did have a version of Classic which was a bit more permanent? What if we eventually had Classic Plus? And given these recent events, things are looking...
What do you think the over-under is on them actually calling it Classic Plus? Probably not, but what are they going to call it? Classic Revamped. Classic Remix. Something stupid, probably.
Pretty interesting. As fine as Season of Discovery has been for a standalone experience and to really push the boat out on extreme changes, it's fine for what it is if you enjoy it, but I think it hasn't met a lot of people's expectations in what a permanent server would end up looking like. So today I want to take a bit of an attempt at going over some things which I think, in any case, should be in Classic Plus. And as split as the community is on many topics, these will be the areas of the game which I think would more or less have to happen for the server to make sense long term. So with all that said, let's make a start. The first thing I'd want to see for Classic Plus is a standalone server, and not something which is sharing a codebase with all the different versions of Classic, from Hardcore to Era and Season of...
Well, yes, I agree with you, Willie, but I also think that... there should be tabs like Seasonal, Classic Era, Hardcore, Classic Plus. But I also think that there should be a hardcore version of Classic Plus too, so hardcore errors as well. So maybe it's a different launcher, because I think this is getting a little bit too... The way this is now is a little bit too much. It's too much bloat. So I wonder if we should have our own launcher. And I think that's what he's saying, but I could be wrong. But I think he's just saying maybe a separate tab, but I think it also should be separated even further.
Of Discovery. Simply put, something breaks in another version of Classic every single time there is a big update on Season of Discovery, and whether that's an annoyance in Classic Era that's taking away from the original experience, or something which could get your level 60 hardcore character killed, which is a bit more serious.
I agree.
Nobody wants this, and it doesn't benefit anyone. Well, from a player point of view, it doesn't benefit us at least. From Blizzard's point of view, I imagine it's cutting down on a lot of potential work. Between the various different versions of the game, they're already maintaining a lot, I would imagine. But if Classic Plus were to happen on an ongoing basis and be its own standalone thing, it does need a standalone server.
I agree.
The next thing I'd want to see would be, frankly, a more dedicated team than what it appears we have at the moment. If Season of Discovery wasn't good...
So this is like cope, I think, unfortunately, guys. I don't think that's ever going to happen. What Turtle WoW does well, whether you like private servers or not, and we can get into Turtle WoW obviously makes money, right? That's an obvious thing. There are mounts and other things you can buy. There's all this stuff, right? So that is an inherent issue with the game. The fact that it has transmog is an inherent issue. These are issues I have with it, but you got to keep the lights on. Servers cost money. All these things cost money, so you have to do it some way. Now, they don't have a subscription fee, right? Now, I don't think that you're going to see Blizzard dedicate a huge amount of people to Classic Plus. One, because remember, if they keep Classic and they don't add microtransactions, we're worth a lot less than a retail player is. Keep that in mind. Second of all, is that, there's that whole ego situation where I think they still to this day don't really kind of look at us as a true community. And, that could be because of interest, but I also think it's because of microtransactions. These things are they feed into each other. It's a cycle. It's a kind of a feedback loop. But I think this is kind of like a cope, kind of like a cope. And although I agree with Willie, I don't think it's going to happen.
Good enough proof to put more effort into Classic Plus long term, I truly don't know what will be. When SOD first came out, it was kind of advertised as a bit of Classic Plus and we're having a go at this, and it saw an absolutely insane amount of people come back to the game.
That is something that's... So they almost caught lightning in a bottle, and I think people miss this about SOD, is that the initial interest was fucking crazy, dude, right? It just wasn't executed well in the long run. Now imagine if they did execute it well. You know, the fact that there's like 5,000 concurrent players on a private server at any given time for Classic Plus, just imagine how many people will play. Like, it's like with the Nostalrius thing too. There was like 10,000 people, right? But the numbers that played official Classic was staggering, especially during launch. So like you take like the private server number and you multiply it by like, I don't know, 10 or more, right? So it's, you know, you could easily have 500,000 people playing. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's maybe, I don't know the actual true numbers of subscribers that came back for Classic, but it was a lot, right? And SOD shows that people are hungry for Classic Plus. If it's done well, the key is to do it well. And I think the key is we know as a community what things work, I think. And it's mostly new content and slight changes to loot tables and, you know, more events, more world events. It's actually pretty easy. It's a pretty easy equation if you think about it. And less is more, in my opinion, when it comes to fundamentally redesigning the game. I think it's just adding on top of what's already there. Classic, I think the major downside for Classic is that we've seen all the content many, many times. Like, I've leveled probably over the private servers and Classic. I probably have 10 to 15 60s. You know, and some of those are Alliance. I've seen pretty much everything. Pretty much. You know, there's maybe some starting stuff I didn't do. I never leveled a Dwarf or a Night Elf to 60. I've done their starting zones. So when I say 10 to 15 60s, that's also like 30 to 40, you know, level 30s. Right? So we have all seen this game. So just add more to it, you know? And slight changes to classes, extremely slight, man, because the magic's already there. Just add more magic.
From all versions of World of Warcraft, and outside of WoW indeed. And with the Classic team at the moment, I understand Season of Discovery is seasonal, it's in the nature, but you can feel as though they're having to hop back and forth between these different projects, namely Cataclysm and Season of Discovery at the moment. And at different points in time, both Season of Discovery and Cataclysm have felt somewhat neglected, and though they're missing the attention that they deserved. And then priorities shift and updates happen all at once. It's kind of like this. Imagine you've got a shop with only a few members of staff which handle everything. They do the tills,
So I'm going to take a little bit of a alternate approach. I actually don't think you need a large team if it's done properly. Now the key is doing it properly, right? I'd argue that you can actually do a Classic Plus pretty well with a team of like 5 to 10 people. I mean, how many people work for Turtle WoW? It can't be a lot, right? And so I don't think you need a huge dedicated team. I think you just need people to make smart decisions. And I'll say this once, I'll say it again. If you release it fresh in between the time that you're developing Classic Plus and put one of those in-game things that, you know, RuneScape has where people can vote on things and talk about things and have like a bulletin board, you'll get all the data you need. Use the player base to your advantage while they're playing it fresh. You're going to make money and you're going to get information and data. It's a win-win.
Stocking, organization, paperwork, the lot. And then you do some new promotion, which is so popular. It brings in all these new customers. And suddenly people are queuing at the tills at the front of the shop, and you're bringing staff members off of other things for this new demand. But when you take all the staff and move them to the tills, other things start to fall behind. Restocking wasn't correct, so you didn't order enough of something in, shelves start to go empty, and you've begun to neglect things which are important because there's something else that's cropped up which is urgent, and you have to do it now. So at the end of the day, the customers at the front have to be dealt with, but things in the background are falling apart, and you can't ignore something important for too long because it's just that important.
If this was a new game, I would agree with you, Willie, that you need this type of specialized. I like how there's a dead Tauren warrior in Stormwind. You would need some type of, specialized groups of people to deal with certain situations and issues. But I don't consider Classic Plus a whole new game. I consider it something that's actually probably a little bit easy. It's just honestly like a redesign of some things and an addition of others. Like, I don't think you need all of this people. Now, of course, in a perfect world, I agree with you. It would be really nice to have a very high dedicated team. You know, what's really nice about Turtle WoW is that you see in world chat GMs talking constantly, and it's like in blue text, so you can see it. That would be great. That would be amazing to see. Are we going to see it? No. Let's just say it right now. We're not going to see it. It would be amazing, Blizz, if you did that. We love that, actually, as a community. At least I do. I like seeing that, but I don't think we will.
And this is kind of how it's felt for at least me as a player between Season of Discovery and Cataclysm. It feels as though they're being pulled from one urgent task to the next without always being able to meet the demand of the things which are important. This is why we've gone from regular patch balances in Season of Discovery to, well, just wait for the next patch and then we'll try and do a big update. Or why for a long time after Cataclysm release the talent screen was still broken. Or why you could see other realms in the LFG.
Oh, wow.
Or why your character just wasn't centered when you inspected someone. These are small things, but they are important, and when they're broken, they're very noticeably broken.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to bring up it's not financially successful enough, and compared to retail, which has way more microtransactions, I imagine it wouldn't be. But I reckon there's more than enough interest to come from a Classic Plus project too. Even in the classic version of WoW we have right now, Cataclysm, while there's been character boosts and toys and mounts and services since the Burning Crusade and the WoW token since...
Okay, over under on this being Classic Plus. Guys, in addition to new content, we've also added new ways to get money out of you. Classic Plus Plus. They should call it Classic Plus Plus. Yeah, so I think this will be in Classic Plus. I'm going to say it now. As much as I hate it, as much as I don't want microtransactions, it gives them an opportunity to put dumb shit in the game because it's like, well, no changes are out of the window. This isn't Classic Era, right? We're adding all this new content, and we added a raid inside of Timbermaw Hold. So now you can get a mini Furbog like companion for $29.99, right? It's going to fucking happen. I don't want it to happen, guys, but it probably will. Just saying it right now.
Mid Wrath of the Lich King. On top of that, each new expansion, they're selling various packs, so they can monetize it a bit more too. A lot of the same framework which exists in retail is in the game now. There's less stuff to buy and less stuff on the shop, and less players, despite whatever you may think, but still, it's there. And Season of Discovery, when it dropped, was immensely popular.
Yeah.
In fact, Blizzard released a video going over the numbers 2 weeks into Season of Discovery. Blizzard pretty much never gives us the numbers, so you can tell they must have been really happy about how this thing was going. 2 weeks in, there was some 4.5 million characters created, nearly 3.9 million PvP deaths in Ashenvale, and 460,000 level 25 characters.
Guys, that's insane. Those numbers are insane. And it rivals retail. Has to be, sorry, not rivals, eclipses retail. Has to be, as far as player engagement. They will fucking monetize Classic Plus. And as long, I'll tell you what, guys, I'll say it right now. Turtle WoW does it too. As long as it's tasteful, what am I going to fucking do? What am I going to say? I'm going to go to a private server? Well, the private servers are doing it too. Look, as much as I don't like this stuff, when you have that many people engaging with your game, which you will if Classic Plus is good, it kind of allows us to get some of the better things, like an engaged team of developers and community leaders, right? Maybe even bot protection, maybe RMT protection. Who knows, right? I don't want monetization in Classic Plus. I don't want monetization in Classic Plus, in case anyone thinks I'm trying to say this is okay. However, I think that for Blizzard and for us, it might be in our benefit if there are some cash shop stuff that people with nothing better to do with their money can buy. I will never ever spend money in the cash shop if I'm paying $15 a month to play your game. It's never going to happen. But people do. People do. As we see with retail.
Season of Discovery at its outset easily had several 100,000 people actively subbed to the game. Maybe not entirely because of Season of Discovery. Season of Discovery at its outset easily had several 100,000 people actively subbed to the game. Maybe not entirely because of Season of Discovery, but at least there were a lot of people willing to give it a chance and invest some time into it. But I guess what I'm saying here is that I think this project does have the ability to make money, and that moving forward, I'd like to see a more dedicated team to it should Classic Plus happen.
Yeah,
next thing is that it really can't just be Blizzard guessing what is good and bad and what will be well received from updates.
Huge.
I think Season of Discovery at this point has probably not done too many favors for people's belief that Blizzard can pull off good class balancing, for example, but there does need to be some degree of communication on...
So the achieving class balance is antithetical to Classic WoW. Say that one more time. Achieving class balance is antithetical to Classic WoW at a core. Classic WoW, I'll say it again, is a simulation of a tabletop game, where classes have specific roles and expectations. Priests should not top damage meters because they are a hybrid and there's a hybrid tax. They can heal. Same thing goes for paladins, whatever. Now, I'm not saying that you can't bring the gaps down a little bit. The fact that warriors do 10 times as much damage as a ret paladin or whatever it is, right? But remember, there are consequences to buffing every class. And that affects endgame PvE. And it affects how fights are designed. Now, what I don't think Blizzard can do properly is redesign endgame PvE content. We saw what happened with some of the bosses and with how hard they were and how much of a nerf they needed for these casual dads to play this game. So, if you're not, that isn't your strong suit. I think designing endgame PvE scenarios is not your strong suit. So you have to be very conservative about how you alter the balance between classes. Okay? Classic WoW is a pure RPG in every extent that you can think of, and the fact that the hybrid tax is strong. Now, should it be as strong as it is? That's a point of contention, and that's something the community should decide. I think Druids should be able to tank a little bit better than they do. They need better itemization. That's number one. They have nothing to wear during endgame. Nothing was designed for Druid tanking, really. So you can fix this problem with itemization before you have to actually touch the talents and the abilities. Itemization should be first. And I think that's a very, very big tenet that they should think about is, if you create the effect of the manual crowd pummeler by incorporating a weapon that you don't have to leave form to use, right? You can still get your threat production from it without having to do this wonky macro where you come out of form, come back into form, whatever it is. I actually don't know if that's even required for manual crowd pummeler, but I think it is. I don't play Druid. So, there's ways to handle this with itemization before you have to touch the sacred talent trees, right? So just think about all these things before you just kind of lazily just make Molten Core harder. Okay, yeah, fine. You may have to do that if you skew the balance too much, but don't skew the balance so much.
Changes and updates. Here comes the inevitable old school RuneScape segue. I'm sure you knew it was coming.
Here it
is.
is.
For their larger updates, what they'll do is a blog in advance of any voting. This blog will basically say, here's what we want to do, here's some of the artwork and how it will look, these are the ideas we want to implement mechanically, these are the rewards, these are the stats they have. They're taking all this stuff from the update, putting it on a page and just allowing players to read it through. Following that, they'll have their votes where 70% or more have to be in favor. Now for WoW specifically, I'm kind of doubtful we'll get to the stage where we're voting on things, and that's because in RuneScape there's not really this split between the player base as there is in WoW. Everyone's character can do the same thing, there's no class delineations, and there's no factions either, so they're not split in that regard. In World of Warcraft, imagine Blizzard say, okay, well, clearly warriors are too good, we're going to nerf them, and then they put out a poll saying here's how we're going to nerf them. Well, every warrior player is going to say no.
Yeah, this is an aspect that I think we always miss. I don't know enough about OSRS, and this is something that I just learned today, right now. Yeah, there's a huge bias when you walk up to that polling station and you say, "Wait a second, they want to nerf my class." So this is a unique thing that I didn't know, and I think that this is something that's really important. How do you rectify this? How do you get around it? Because I think the Jagex approach is brilliant, but there's a fundamental difference between the games that is apparent to me now. So, yeah, that's a tough one. But I think the mindset should always be, don't take away. I would add, right? But I would add in a very, very smart way. Like I said, with itemization first, talents and abilities last. And I think we want to capture the pure RPG elements of what Classic really is. And, that is sacred. And I want to see what Willie says when his suggestions are, but if voting is a problem, then you have to lean on the conservancy aspect of changes, like be conservative with them and see how it goes, right? I know that's not perfect, and I know that's what people are like, well, God damn it, I want Crusader Strike. I understand. And I think Crusader Strike probably is fine, right? But I think the community has already kind of created this realm of or this idea of what Classic Plus should be and what changes maybe are good for the community and what good for classes. So there's enough out there already to kind of get a really good head start without having to do this polling system. But a polling system may still be good for other things, like certain new areas or different battlegrounds or all this other stuff. Who knows, right? Different rewards. So we'll see. We'll see.
No, but every non-warrior player is probably going to say yes. Or for example, imagine they say, we think Alliance racials are too weak in PvP, we're going to give human every man for themselves. Every Alliance player, that's an easy yes. Every Horde player, no. And that's kind of the problem with World of Warcraft and a voting system. We are split between our own players. We're split by classes and we're split by factions. So I think people are going to vote in their own interests quite a lot more than they would, opposed to something which they think would be beneficial long term. However, if there was some kind of blog system where they're really outlining everything that's planned in the patch, and then we're able to collect feedback off of that, I think that would be a good step at least. And I guess there'll be a subset of players who are saying you're ruining the patch by releasing everything in advance and telling us everything there's going to be, but the alternative is, well, what they've been doing for the past 20 or so years. So really, if you want it to change, you have to do things differently. In any event, there will need to be some communication for changes so they can get a feel of what's going to work and why. Again, it can't just be Blizzard guessing what's going to be good or bad. Next is new original content. Well, yes, obviously, Classic.
So before he starts out the content, I just want to say, like there's ways to do it better than we've already been doing it, like Willie said. And I think a polling system might be good for certain aspects. With the express, precognition or understanding ahead of time that there's going to be extreme bias in certain things, like PvP, right? What a lot of people don't tell you, who's done a lot of endgame PvP, is that Warsong is extremely Alliance favored because of Paladins, right? Also, in my experience, so is Alterac. So Arathi, maybe there's some argument there, but in pre-mades, it's like it's PvP is a really hard nut to crack because I've seen some excellent alliance strategies revolved around Paladin, especially in Warsong. And it's not that clear cut and simple where, the racials on the Horde are just like better, every man for himself may exactly do what we think it's going to do, and maybe ease things a little bit and bring them closer to 50-50. But like, I don't know, man. If anyone's done any a high end PvP pre-made battlegrounds, man, Alliance is fucking good too. Like, Paladins bring so much to the table, and you know, of course, elemental shamans are fucking beasts. You know, and you can, but I always lean on that the Horde is always more offensive. We have Wind Fury, we have Shamans that are more offensive. And Paladins are just way more defensive, and they have a much more interesting toolbox that you can do in Battlegrounds. I don't think it's that clear cut that Horde's like the best, man. I really don't. Please tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, from people who have done a lot of PvP. I don't know if it's that simple. But, you know, just going back to what, you know, the polling system, and I think we need a fresh idea of how things should be done in this community. And I think a polling system could be one way of doing it. But secondarily, I think this Classic WoW team has to be much more engaged with the community and the theory craft and the ideas that are out there already, including Turtle WoW. Just my thoughts.
Classic Plus is going to need new content, duh, but it's worth talking about. So far, both seasonal servers have had more of an endgame focus. Seasonal Mastery was mainly about updating raids to make them a bit more challenging, and Season of Discovery has had these level brackets where you're exploring new ways to play your class, but you're also exploring new pit stops for the endgame levels, 25, 40, 50, and now 60. But Vanilla typically focuses a bit less on the endgame than other versions of World of Warcraft. So to this end, I'd expect to see different things such as expanded content, dungeons pre-60, new wings in dungeons or raids, and just building on the existing world.
So I don't agree with adding wings to dungeons that already exist. I don't think they should be touched. They're classic, right? I think you can add new places, new outdoor elite areas, new elite quests. You know, in Turtle WoW, they added a whole area in the western part of Tearsfall, which is kind of like not used, and they made that like a level 17 to 20 questing area, and it has new elite quests attached to it, right? There's enough quests there where undead don't have to go to the Barrens. Like there's famously just not enough quests in Silverpine unless you just want to grind. You have to go to the Barrens, and Turtle WoW did a great job of adding quests to the undead areas. You know, it's like, so Tearsfall is like, you know, 1 through 10 or 1 through 12. Silverpine is 12 through, well, it's technically 12 through 20 but the quest, there's a lot of gaps in questing. So they filled that up with this western part of Tearsfall. And I thought that was a fucking great idea, right? So that's the kind of stuff we want to see. Definitely new dungeons. You know, new outdoor elite areas, new loot, new blues, new greens. Stuff you've never seen before. And that's the stuff that Turtle WoW's done really, really well. So this is something that I would expect in the Classic Plus.
I think that's the key here. We're not looking to replace stuff which exists with new stuff. We're trying to build up what we already have. The framework is strong, and in some places there's just quite a lot of nothing. So if we added to them, I think that would be very good. I also think when it comes to new content, controversial as this may be, it wouldn't be bad to put some stuff in the game, especially at endgame, that could be focused on more by the solo player than explicitly it always being group content.
Yes and no. I think that, look, I think that if new dungeons are created, there's going to be a new meta that forms around stuff you can do solo. Like Dire Maul Tribute, obviously was not intended by the developers, right? However, the community realized you can do this. That's fucking cool, man. I don't think there should be express solo content added to the game, because that's what we got with Incursions, which were terrible. Right? I actually don't know if it's fully solo, but it sounds like it is. So this is from someone who hasn't played. But judging by what I've heard, you don't want to remove too many people from the game. But something like Dire Maul Tribute is so cool. Now, I realize that it's heavily class favored. Hunters can do this. No one else really can. Maybe Warlocks. I don't know. I've never seen anyone other than a Hunter do Dire Maul Tribute. But so I think that's fine. But I think it's class dependent, and that's also cool. Warriors pay a price in this regard, and they can't do a lot of this content. That is unexpected and was not it wasn't designed by the developers that way, but it exists in the game that certain classes can do certain things solo that other classes cannot. That should be player driven. I don't think that should be done intentionally. And then going back to what we just saw when he was in Tanaris, Shimmering Flats, wouldn't it be really cool to have a dungeon inside?
Would be very good. I also think when
that area there, see where the ruins are? That's where the Silithid are. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a dungeon down there that was like a pre-AQ Silithid dungeon? I think that would be so interesting, man.
In the game, especially at endgame, that could be focused on more by the solo player than explicitly it always being group content. There is a ton of group content at endgame in vanilla at the moment, and I know people say it's a massively multiplayer game as though it's a sin to play solo and we can't do that in vanilla, but just a few more avenues of play for somebody who's a bit more restricted on time towards endgame I don't think would go amiss. At the end of the day, you can get from 1 to 60 and you can do group content all the way if you want. You don't have to be solo, you don't have to be part of a group, you can do whichever one you want, and then
there's so many cool things classes can do that I think get removed from the conversation of balance. You know, I've said this so many times, and I got a lot of hate for this back in the day when I made a class balance guide, about where the classes stand compared to each other. Leveling is 1/3 of the journey, right? PvP is 1/3, and PvE is the other third, so splits up equally, 33% each. But I would argue that there's a fourth aspect. There's this soloable stuff you can do in game, and warriors are really bad in that, right? Really, really, really bad in that. Hunters, mages, warlocks, paladins really shine in that aspect. I don't like balancing classes based upon one thing. I think balancing on PvE is what got us to where we are right now with retail. I really don't like balancing classes based upon one thing, and I realize PvE is a big part of it, but you get to raid, right? You get to raid as a paladin because they're fucking phenomenal healers, man. Hunters, not so much, but hunters, man, if you are a good puller, dude, pulling is so much fun. I love doing that in my hunter. And we had 2 hunters in our raid and they were so good, and I realized that people want people who want to play hunter, we want 10 hunters in a raid. It's just, or 5 or whatever it is. You just want an equal balance. You don't want 20 warriors. And I understand that to an extent, but again, remember, this is a tabletop simulator and DPS are done by fighters and rogues, right? And I don't know, or thieves, whatever you want to call them. So I think that that beautiful balance with all of the game and all of its aspects, leveling, PvP, PvE, and solo content, I think those things, you have to take them the whole part of that pie chart when you think about classes. And that's why the game's beautiful, in my opinion. That's why the class archetypes and infrastructure is beautiful, and how they work together and interact. That's something you really have to be careful about when you mess around with.
It's the level cap in the game says, okay, now do everything as a group. Not saying get full raid gear from being solo or anything, but maybe just some more avenues of gameplay in one way or another. I know this is pretty vague, but I'm just throwing it out there. Things such as, for example, the Mage Tower. I don't know if you've seen the Warrior Challenge in Silithus, where they have to find the Wandering Swordsman, and then they fight this guy atop a giant pillar. That is pretty much the Mage Tower in vanilla, and I think it's a brilliant idea. I'd love to see more of that for other classes. There's the Brawlers Guild from Mists of Pandaria. I'm a huge fan of the Brawlers Guild, and I think it would fit very well thematically into vanilla. There'd be nothing like watching that one guy from your guild who just got a BIS item, fail some stupid mechanic and get pecked in the eye by a penguin and get one shot. I'd love to see that. You could potentially have new class quests, new reputations for items, new profession updates.
So I like all these ideas, Willie, and I like new class quests. I just think you have to be very mindful about how much solo content you add to the game. I don't think vanilla is good because it has too much solo content. It's balanced in the fact that there is stuff you can do by yourself and there's stuff you have to do with a team. And I think that balance has to be maintained, and it shouldn't be skewed in any one direction. I think it's really good where it is right now. So if you're going to add a few more solo things you can do in the game, first of all, the reward should not be comparable to what you can do with a group at all. You can't be getting welfare epics. 2, it can't bring the player out of the world too much. And those are the things you have to balance.
And so on and so forth. Group content in MMOs is fantastic, but don't forget about the guy who doesn't always have time to do that. Next is updating certain systems. These are going to probably receive a bit more of a mixed review, I would bet. First of all, 42-yard nameplates and instant mail. At least instant mail between your own characters if possible, similar to how it was in TBC.
Private servers do this, by the way.
I don't think that's breaking the game too much, and it would add a bit of a layer of convenience. As for the nameplates thing, I mean, this is coming from a guy who typically plays classes with damage over time abilities, and if I use a dot on an enemy that's more than about 25 yards away, I have to use an add-on to actually see how long is left on that dot, and it's just kind of scuffed, to be honest. Possible updates to how stats work to move to a rating system as it was in TBC. So this will probably be pretty controversial. No. With how stats work on items in vanilla, they're very item defining. They moved to a rating system in TBC so they could put more incremental bonuses on items. In vanilla, an item either has 1% crit or 2% crit. Some items with 2% hit are BIS for pretty much the entire game because 2% hit is just such a big deal. How is it when we're going to get to new content that are we going to start putting 3% hit on items? 4%? That's crazy. That's just such a big number to throw in one go. Maybe full percentages on items need to be dialed back in general, or maybe the rating system would make sense long term.
No, you just need to add more options for gearing, but with the new content, right? So that everyone doesn't have to have Drake Fang Talisman. I don't think there should be a rating system at all. It's immersion breaking, and I think that it causes a lot of poor player behavior. Just add more stuff, right? Improve loot tables so that people aren't fighting for everything. You don't have to go that far.
Updating the UI in certain places, such as when you're looking for a group. I'm not a fan of just having to spam in a chat channel or try.
Yeah, so Turtle Well implemented, which I don't agree with fully, but they implemented an LFG system where you do queue up as you would in Wrath of the Lich King. Not the raid, not the dungeon finder, the actual thing where you pick a role and hit find group. Turtle Well has that. The difference is it doesn't teleport you to the dungeon. You still have to go there. I have mixed feelings about it. It works pretty well. I don't have to spam. I can click that thing, and in 45 minutes, which is because I'm playing Rogue right now, I get into a group. And then we all have to go there. The other alternative is to use like the add-on right now, the bulletin board add-on, right? You can use the Wrath of the Lich King version of that and do the same thing where you see groups that are forming and you hit a button and it sends a whisper to someone, says, hey, and the whisper says your name, your class, and your level or something like that. That could be a really good system too. You can have both. Turtle Well actually has both. It has the LFG panel, but then it has the groups that are actually forming panel. It has both. Something like that I think is fine. I do think that talking inside of a chat channel does have a certain beauty to it and nostalgia attached to it, but I also think at this time, in this day and age, I think something updated needs to be added to Classic WoW.
Try and open the chat channel out so I can read it, and then installing the LFG bulletin board so I can parse all that data into something which I can understand. I think the default version vanilla has without add-ons is honestly very poor, and the bulletin board add-on is good, but the base game shouldn't really require an add-on to do something which is as simple and core to the game as putting a group together. Not talking about the LFG insofar as it being something which teleports you to the dungeon or forms your group for you, but just something where you can see who is looking for what and what they need and so on. The ranking rework to be carried forward from Season of Discovery. Decay is just not a fun mechanic, so let's keep that out of the game, please. NPCs marked as dishonorable kills to just be made immune from damage instead. Dishonorable kills just don't work anymore. I get why they put them in the game, they didn't want high-level characters running around and griefing starting zone mobs, but dishonorable kills.
I think that the retrofitted PvP system's fine, and I think that, that's not bad either, making DKs not possible. I don't know. I think you should still be able to kill an NPC. That's a tough one, man. The only thing that really affects me ever is if I was in a raid group and someone fucked me. by killing a civilian either because they did it on purpose or because they're just an idiot, right? And I was ranking during Classic, so that hurt me. Never happened, but it can happen if you're in a raid group, right? That's the only thing that really sucks about this. And I guess, yeah, okay, fine. If it's a quest giver, yes, that sucks for the player. So there should be potentially a way around that. But I think that being able to kill things in-game adds more immersion. So I don't know. What is the answer here? I don't know. Willie's suggestion that it should be immortal. I don't know about that either. Maybe just remove DKs. I'm not really sure. People who grief are going to still grief. People who don't grief aren't going to start griefing because DKs are removed. I don't think. I could be wrong about this. Maybe that's naive.
Kills as they work at the moment actively disincentivize PvP. You could be in a raid and you're ranking and somebody accidentally kills an NPC which awards a dishonorable kill, and that's just messed up your ranking for the week. Equally, people when they're ranking don't want to go and invade other capital cities. They'll actively avoid doing large-scale PvP just because of the risk of dishonorable kills. I think they were a good idea at the time. It makes sense why they've done this. We need a better solution. I think the faction balance system from Season of Discovery on PvP servers and potentially some kind of warning before a new player creates a character there would also go a long way. If you can keep PvP servers 50-50 on faction balance, that should be the exact environment people opting into that should want. There's still issues on these servers, however, due to layering and one faction taking one layer and another taking another. I don't know whether there's a proper solution to that issue, but in theory...
Oh, that looks really fun, man. I wish I played SOD just for this. This actually looks pretty cool.
What they've done in Season of Discovery is a positive. Next up will be some level of class balancing. Again, after Season of Discovery, people may not exactly want to hear this, but the way we played Classic as an MMO so far is not normal, if I'm honest. Online games don't release once and then never balance anything ever. It's been this way because we've been playing these expansions on the final patch, and we've mentally signed up for nothing to change. It's as though if you want to play a class that does a lot of damage, you should play this. If you want to play...
Okay, I want to say what I said about this last time. I don't think you should enact changes that require this. If you require balancing post, launch, that means you went too far. And I think that the goal should be we never want to balance anything after this is launched. Now, I know that's naive and I know that's probably impossible, but that's the goal, right? That's what you should shoot for. And I think that is something that will stave off this. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't balance something. Let's say they added a weapon that made warriors even more powerful than they already are, to the point where it's broken. Yeah, that weapon should be nerfed, right? So I'm not saying that there's not things that could be changed or need to be changed after they're added, but the mentality and the goal should be attached to, let's not do anything that's going to require any heavy changes later on when building Classic Plus.
A healer, you should play this, and so on and so forth. If this is an ongoing game, it's not going to release and never have any balance ever. On top of that, I think you could start off with just minor tweaks to common grievances, such as Prop Pally having no taunt, hybrid classes going and so on. Then again, maybe you could take some of the bigger successes from Season of Discovery and begin to implement them. For example, I think the changes they made to tank, where they gain attack or spell power from defense that goes above their cap, is actually a really smart idea and puts a lot more value into defense as a stat, which typically a tank should be valuing. But
yeah, I think that there are, like I said before, there are probably things they can glean from SOD. I don't think that they should really use that as a basis, though. I think they should use what's been popular on Turtle, what's been popular to talk about in the community. Waffle Storm for Paladins is kind of weird. A Crusader Strike is fine. It's less is more in the situation when it comes to abilities and it comes to things like this. I like the whole stacking defense thing. That's pretty interesting, and that's going to change the meta big time. But yeah, adding a taunt is what, this is stuff that Turtle WoW did. Adding ways for druids and elemental shamans and shadow priests to not go this is something that Turtle WoW did. It didn't really scale the damage. They scaled the ability to keep going, which is usually the issue. It's not the damage per se. It's that they can't keep up. They can't stay up with their mana. So, yeah, again, it'll change how many of these classes you take to raid, but it shouldn't change the overall difficulty any, and I think that's fine. When you add damage numbers, that's when things get weird, and that's when things have consequences. When you say that classes can have their ability to maintain themselves during a fight, that doesn't really change things that much when it comes to the overall damage of your raid. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, long term, if this is an ongoing thing in an MMO that's receiving updates, there's gonna be class balancing. That's the way things are. And finally, it's gonna be about compromising and communicating. You know what they say about compromises? If no one's happy, it's a good compromise. Whatever Blizzard do, should they do this Classic Plus thing, there's gonna be people who will love it and people who will hate it. And that's going to have to be okay. So communications and those blog posts that I mentioned earlier potentially about what their plans are in the future, and ultimately Blizzard need to decide who...
Whatever Blizzard does, there's going to be a part of the community that's going to lash out, and that's something they have to be prepared for. Just adding something like Crusader Strike sounds like everyone loves that, right? But I guarantee there's going to be people who don't. There's going to be either classic purists or Horde Andes. I'm a Horde Andy, but I would be okay with this change, by the way, that are going to hate it, right? Adding a taunt to paladins, adding the ability for elemental shamans to not in the first, 10 seconds of the fight. There's going to be people who don't like this stuff. Maybe they play mage and they don't want to be replaced. Maybe they play warlock and they don't want to be replaced. Maybe they play a warrior and they don't want a paladin to do maybe nearly as good a job as them. Maybe they, it's a warrior off tank that loses his job to a paladin. Oh well, that's just the way the game works. We need a little small shift to the meta to where, the overall raid in structure of classes that are in there are slightly different, right? Maybe instead of 20 warriors, you bring 15. Maybe instead of, 5 or 6 mages, you bring 4. There's a room for a boomkin. There's room for an elemental shaman in one of the groups. Maybe with the warlocks to help with their threat. Anything you could think with Tranquil Air Totem, anything you could think of, that's something that could be viable now. And that's really the goal. It shouldn't be that it shouldn't be where warriors are replaced by something. It should be that things are shifted a little bit. And that's going to make people mad. But that's okay if most of us are okay with it, right?
Who they're making the game for, rather than just trying to please everybody. There are a lot of different versions of Classic on offer at the moment, and sometimes I legitimately think the correct thing to say would be go play Classic Era instead if these are too many changes. Some people will find change to be good, some will be bad, but ultimately if it's going to grow into its own thing, it's going...
I do think there should be a Classic Era Fresh though at some point. Sooner rather than later.
To be different, and that won't be for everyone. That's pretty much everything I've got today for the points which I think would have to be in consideration for Classic Plus. I know some people are going to disagree or agree. Hey, that's kind of the nature of the type of video that I'm making here, but let me know your thoughts on everything. Are there any other absolutely key points that you would bring up for Classic Plus? Let me know in the comments down below. And, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Great video, and it's great that Willie made it, and it's a very good discussion, and I think it's just, solidifies kind of the idea that most of us have. Even though Willie didn't go into specific scenarios or examples, I think the overall message is add new life to Azeroth, Classic Azeroth, in form of content. Very minor class changes, and just things that are going to make people feel a little bit more invested in their character and in the world and engage with more people. And I think that's the goal. And I think that should always be the goal. And I think that's what Turtle Wow did very, very well. So, and Blizzard, you guys should be able to do better. You guys should be able to do better than a private server with like a skeleton crew of people. And that's, and I think you guys can do it. I really do. As much bullshit that I give you guys, and much I'm like, why did you do this or why did you do that? I think it's definitely possible. Just use the community as a guiding light, and we're here to help if you engage with us. So, but that's all I have. Let me know in the comments what you think about certain aspects or certain things that I talked about or what Willie talked about. What is your ideal Classic Plus, and would you play it? And that's about it. Keep on and grind, everyone. Have a great day.